2006. I was 21 to 20 years old then. I wanted to work harder on trying to be spiritually awakened and master inner peace again. I decided to make this a fundamental goal like I did last year in the beginning, but this time I wanted to pull out the stops that would make me not be able to fully accomplish this goal and actually achieve it this time, because I know in the end this is the most important thing, achieving inner peace, because this allows you to accept anything and always be at a peaceful state. I often wish I met other people who were determined to be spiritually aware like me. I felt like it would be nice to have other people I could relate to on this, because this was definitely a big part of my life. I heard from Joshua Davis Stone that when you try to spiritually awaken and find inner peace, having a network of people who also have the same interests is very helpful. But I couldn't find that. I felt alone in regard to my spiritual goals. And I felt like there was a lot I couldn't talk to about other people. I had to kind of keep to myself because they wouldn't understand it. It made me think I'm crazy. I learned a powerful piece of spiritual wisdom this year. I learned that whenever you lose faith in spirituality and believing that you can obtain greater peace and joy, learn the truth, you can always look within for answers. I've always, up to this point, I relied on Joshua Davis Stone and trusted him that what he said was true. But sometimes I get doubts. Even though he seemed like a really good, credible source, and he talked to me, and he seems to know me really well, which is definitely some good supporting evidence that all this is true, it's still, how do I know 100%? Well, I learned that you can find more answers if by looking beyond by what people state, but I've learned now that you can also find truth by finding other evidence that support it. That's what got me more into philosophy. I've learned to look at scientific principles that support these reasons. I know a truth that people are positive and you can be loving. There's a lot of scientific facts that also state that too. Like the universe just seems to flow. Math seems to have a very fluid structure. It's never wrong. It's always precise. Love is precise. I started thinking more of the reason this fact that made me believe it's true more. I started looking for actual explanations on how you can be positive, why we're what he says, made in the image of God, which I didn't quite understand, and why we can overcome fear using philosophy and actual facts to support it. I really enjoyed philosophy. It was a great tool to bridge any doubt which I had with more explanation. And I learned that this year, in 2006. At the beginning of this year, Dad and Nancy drove me to Jackson, Michigan. This year started out with me starting my co-op job. This was also the first time I was ever going to live on my own. I was about to find my own place to live, an apartment, perhaps a place with a roommate, but nonetheless, my very first place I was going to live on my own. And this was going to be my first time working at a corporate job. The thought of living on my own place excited me, though. I felt like I could do it. I also felt like I was going to have more freedom. In spite of the good feelings, I did feel a little nervous too. I felt like I was stepping my foot in the unknown. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to keep this job. Was I going to have a hard time following directions? Was my short-term memory issues going to kick in when trying to do whatever it is I'm going to be doing with this job? Was my learning disability going to make me get fired? Me and my parents tried finding a place for me to stay. We had to find a place all in one day. The pressure was on. I had to work the next day. It was hard finding a place for me to temporarily stay for the semester, but we finally ran into a guy who happened to move me into a house who was looking for a roommate. It was kind of a miracle, serendipity. His name was Jeremy, and he seemed really cool, but I never really got close to him because I was kind of afraid to be myself around him. He was a really nice guy and he was really cool, but he seemed to be the kind of type that might think I'm crazy if I opened up too much. In spite of the fact that I respected him, I still had to kind of be on my toes. I stayed at a hotel at that night and planned to move at my new place the next day. I was about to start work that morning. I was kind of nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I went to the main headquarters of Consumers Energy in Jackson, Michigan. This was the main building that ran the whole entire power utility in the state of Michigan, that contained the whole entire power grid of all the cool power lines that I enjoyed looking at on all the road trips that I went to, and all the trips up to Flint, and all the power lines I saw when I saw my mom. I felt somewhat nervous and somewhat awed. It was a mixture of the two. I looked up. I saw a 40-story tower and building above me. I walked inside the building. I went to the front desk and dang a bill for the supervisor. Once my supervisor came down, he escorted me up some stairs, and I went into the office building where my cubicle was at. There was many more cubicles around there. I looked up with absolute awe. I looked around the whole office. I saw power line related stuff everywhere. There was power line drawings. There was models of the power lines that I enjoyed seeing. There was insulators lying around, wires, even electrical books, and people who knew everything about it. I saw a power line I used to draw when I was a kid on a blueprint. I couldn't believe it. I was so amazed, I almost felt like crying. I felt so extremely lucky and honored to be working at a place like that. Without a doubt, this appeared to be right up my alley.